No, but yes.
Three, two, one, and we are here.
And we're here, we're live. It's
From-
happening.
Somewhere not in central London.
From a very top secret location. Very, very, very top secret.
And for anyone that is watching, you can see that we are not just Dean and Monica. We are also Benja.
Hola, everyone. Thanks for the invite, guys.
Yeah, in case you didn't know, the last couple of episodes we've done, we've invited people to be on the stream, but they've called in. So we were able to keep them in a guest space,
Okay.
in the internet, and then bring them in at the last minute. But you're stuck with us today.
Yes, I'm so happy to be here and to be again in your studio.
Yeah, the cabin. So Benja made it to cabin Mark 1 back in the day. It must have been 7 or 8 years ago.
Yes.
It's a long time. Yeah, amazing. So what are we doing today? What are we covering today, Monica?
Well, today it's all about flavors. So what is the essence of flavor? I think we are, discussing the third episode of the first season of Perspectives. So for those who haven't watched it, please go and watch it on the Campari Academy website. And we'll give you a little taste now, actually.
Yeah, we might play the trailer of Perspectives so you get a perspective on perspectives.
And then Dean can practice how many times he can say perspectives in a sentence that actually makes sense.
Yeah. What? Does that not make it?
This made sense, but it will...
Oh, okay. In future, we have to
Exactly.
make sense out of the perspective chat.
The food system is very broken, so flavor has been compromised, and that's quite fucked up.
Hard work that the farmers have done and why the organically produced material could taste a lot better, and that's why there's an added cost in the cocktail.
You need to know your produce, know the rules, and to break them after and not be all over the place.
There's this urban myth that you have to have all of fancy toys to be able to make delicious wrong.
There's a big opportunity for us to be champions, leading from flavour, and that is how you drive change.
Stream.
So, this is obviously only a few seconds of the whole episode, but the episode itself, it talks about anything from, supply chain, sourcing, how to source in a responsible way, but also how to source for flavor. It talks about the kind of different approaches different bartenders or different people have to that topic. And it talks about what you do afterwards when you have your ingredients, which techniques you can use. Is technology always a plus? Not always, I would say. And also it just discusses the bartender's responsibility to make changes if necessary. If you see that something is not working, if you see that ingredients that you're using maybe is not possible to get,
Or it's not possible to get it sustainably. You're with the best possible flavor. Because I noticed you in the long form of the video commented on how much you love strawberries, but
yes,
they have to be exactly at the right time of year.
So obviously, I will make the example because yesterday I tasted the one of my favorite drinks in the world is one of Benja's drinks. No?
Okay,
It's the
what is it?
Margarita al pastor.
Okay.
I'll let you explain the drink actually.
So when I came to London in 2009 to take the courses at Shakers Bar School, we need to do a twist in a classic. I was the only Mexican, so I decided to go with the margarita. That in Mexico, the Mexicans don't drink margaritas.
Yeah.
So I decided to go with that, and it was talking about the flavors. So I developed the inspiration came from the tacos that we have after party when we go out in Mexico City. Well, in Mexico, and it always is a must to have a taco al pastor when you visit Mexico to be a complete visit to Tacolandia, how I call it. So because we have different tacos for the morning, midday, lunch,
Oh.
afternoon, and at night, and after drinks. So, but always is constant the taco al pastor. So in that one, like the taco al pastor is the tortilla, the meat, like kind of shawarma, let's say, like it's coming, and then they put onion, coriander, pineapple, and salsa. So what I add to that drink is pineapple, serrano chile, coriander, and to be not so in the flavor of the coriander, I put basil and mint, so they
Okay.
can be little bit mild.
You can
the
tone
flavor.
down the coriander's green kind of.
Yes, and then when I was like working in progress to finish the drink, the guys who were teaching me, one was English and the other was from India. So the first one they tried, he was from England, and he said like, Benjan, you need to start again because you are super lost, like super lost. And then the guy from India was like, Benja, you almost have it. It's amazing. Like how come they play the flavors, no, the
Yeah.
flavors. And I understand like also about the like some people in Europe doesn't like the cilantro,
Yeah.
the coriander. So, but in like in Asia, I just been last year, and also the food in Asia they have always they incorporate cilantro, so they love it. Or in India, it's like kind of the flavor of the chutney
Yeah.
that they have for the meal. So it's always like we have a in one get chief like Margarita al Pastor galore. I say like no, let's do more of this margarita, and at the end we make like in the minute like 3 times what we thought we were doing. Yes.
Oh wow. Yeah, I think you might have learned more about creating cocktails from those two judges having completely different perspectives than you could have from any other course, like the rest of the course, I guess.
Yeah.
Because that's the first thing you need to learn, that not every guest is the same. You can't make the same drink for everybody and keep them all happy. Not everybody likes a Manhattan, right?
No, of course, except for, I mean, you love them. But so
too.
my point here with the pineapple specifically, if I swap out the strawberries for the pineapple in this instance, when you grow up in Europe, or especially Northern Europe like me, you don't get pineapple that tastes like pineapple. So I was 20, I think, 3 the first time I tasted a pineapple in a country where the pineapple grows.
Yeah.
So it tasted like a pineapple. And I had a bite and I was like, oh, wow. Okay, I get it. And also, when you go to, for example, Latin America or South America, you taste the pineapple and it makes perfect sense why someone created a pina colada. Because pineapple will have naturally all of those flavor profiles within itself. So it's like, wow. And this is my point in the episode, is that, yes, you can get pineapple, you can get strawberries 365 days a year from the supermarket, but it doesn't taste anything. So for me, I would rather limit the time that I can eat and enjoy and work with those ingredients, but have them full of flavor.
So you'd prefer to have a more seasonal bar with more seasonal cocktails, like that your cocktails constantly change on the menu, and that's as a result of constantly looking for the best possible flavor at that moment.
Yes.
I guess.
So for us, we use ingredients in their natural season, and we apply techniques to lengthen the time that they are available to us. So we would never use them fresh outside of the season. But if you want to work seasonally, you have to also, in my opinion, obviously other people might disagree, but you have to accept and incorporate techniques into that conversation. So like, for example, for 3 weeks, you'll have fresh strawberries and use them for all it's worth. But then for the rest of the year, you have to preserve, pickle, make a jam, make a wine, make any kind of way of preparation so that the strawberries can be available to you 365 days, but not fresh.
Yeah, it's not the fresh strawberry; it's the flavor of strawberry that you're leaning on outside season.
Yes, and also I would say that sometimes, for example, if you use Manhattan, like your favorite drink as an example, like if you, when it's cold outside and you think, oh, I would like some strawberries, I would like some cherries, do you actually want the fresh cherry, or do you just want the warming side of the cherry? And you kind of like, oh, the maraschino cherry that you put inside, or if you added some cherry wine to the mix, or you infused the vermouth with cherries when it was in season, and now 6 months later.
For me, with the
you're
Manhattan,
taking-
I like a cherry that's been steeped, that's been cured, that it not necessarily the fresh ones. Fresh ones are great,
but
but
not
there's too much inconsistency in them. Like, I'm really focusing on the vermouth and the whiskey.
Yes.
You know,
So-
it's also something I don't have to clean up after. I can come out here, open a fresh bottle of vermouth. There's a wall of whiskey, and I can make myself a Manhattan, and then I can rinse the things, put it in the dishwasher, and walk out. It's
Yeah.
part of the appeal as well.
Yeah, and but I think that, you know, if you know ingredients, when you understand the ingredients that you're working with, you can. I know that it sounds very negative when you say like manipulate, but in the same way, like in your cocktail, you manipulate the flavors and the ingredients to work for you, and you allow yourself to the space to kind of work around it, so that, you know, this drink will probably not taste the same in London versus Tokyo versus Mexico City, but the overall flavor profile is the
Yeah.
same. So because you need to understand how to work within the framework of what you're trying to make.
Yeah, it's like when I went with you 3 days ago to Taller, like you have the rhubarb, that is the 2 weeks of the year that you have available. So it was amazing. I have the opportunity to taste it. And we were talking that you change some of the cocktails like every 2 weeks, so you can have the ingredients that are available from those days. No, for those seasons. I will say 4 days. No.
Definitely. And I think these like different bars or different bartenders or people have different approaches to it. But for example, we follow this natural season of the ingredients that we work with. So we follow some of the farmers, that same farmers every year. But we also work seasonally in a global perspective, because I think that there's a second discussion that needs to be had in terms of, what if you are somewhere that things don't grow? Is it better for the nature, for the world, for Mother Earth, or whatever you want to call it? Is it better to force something to grow where it's not supposed to grow, or is it better to find a supplier or a supply chain that can provide you with the ingredients that trades in a sustainable way? And if you look at the overall input versus output, it's better to find a good importer that
Yeah.
imports in an ecological way, in a fair way, and does the necessary steps, rather than using a lot of resources and energy, water, all of these things, to force something to grow in a greenhouse and then have.
It's funny, your first mention was the aha moment for you was pineapples, when you tasted a pineapple that came from the place it was meant to be in. And the Victorians in England were very famously tried to grow pineapples here at great expense, trying to show off to each other how rich they were. And they developed some great greenhouse techniques, but they ended up just using unbelievable amount of resources and polluting everything around them. Some of the structures still stand, but that's a perfect example of how we've actually moved away from that to a better, more sustainable supply chain. I'd say supply chain. If we can get things here fast without polluting the environment, then obviously getting it from the source is better. I always used to say that the source, as in ketchup, the sauce tastes better at the source. Hard to portray on a video, but every time you go to a distillery, you taste something right where it was made, and it tastes better. Like the experience. Like Mexico is one of my cities that, or even all of Mexico, but certainly Mexico City, when everything that you taste is like, it's there. It's from that space. Everything is so flavorful and it's so unique. I can't seem to find anywhere that it can be replicated outside. Like you can't get tacos El Pastor that taste like Mexico outside of Mexico.
I mean, you can't get tacos outside of Mexico.
Yeah.
It's like Mexico. No, you can get good tacos. It's just not the same.
Yeah, it's this. I feel the same about Japan. You know, you go to Japan, and the subtlety of flavor. It's just, I don't know whether the air and everything is neater and cleaner and precise, but you end up getting a certain flavor from things in Japan that you can't replicate outside it.
But this is yes, and this is kind of, there's been a lot of research done in the external elements that affects what you taste, because it does matter. There's a like famous, I don't know if it's a bartender urban myth, or when you teach your young bartenders, like the guests that goes to Greece for holidays, sits and drink uso in the sunset by the Mediterranean, loves it, brings back a bottle, and then in their living room in a rainy day in some English village or city and taste it, and it's like it doesn't taste the same.
Yeah.
Of course it doesn't, because what are you missing? You're missing the Mediterranean.
Everything
you're missing
else.
the sunset. You're missing.
You're on holidays.
You on holidays, exactly.
It's also
The
safe
movie.
to assume that when they were trying something new like ouzo that they'd never tried before, they were also having like amazing salads with like fresh, crisp onion in it and like Mediterranean tomatoes, and their palate had a little bit like not fatigue, but it had been bombarded with all these other flavors that got them prepared.
I like the fact that you're saying that
Not
you can
fatigue.
only enjoy ouzo if you have a fatigued palate.
Yeah. Okay, of all the things in the world, you might notice there's not much pastis stuff on my back bar. It's one of my, I don't really drink it. I started bartending in Australia where they had black sambuca.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Sambuca,
so slippery nipples and things. Like everyone was like, "Oh, can I get a shot of black sambuca?" Like Opal Nero was, and I poured so much of it that the smell. You'd come into work and I could. It was like the nightclub in particular had carpets. Yeah, it was brutal. Okay, so I don't think I've gotten negative here and bagged something, but I think it's about time to talk about techniques, is it not?
Well, yes. Always time.
We don't
to talk
have to.
about
We don't have to
technique.
move at any particular time.
What's your favorite technique
In bartending,
in anything?
my favorite. Well, if I was going to say there was a technique, it would be making café bruleaux. Do you know the café bruleau, the café diablo?
But what?
Cafe. So the
of
technique
all
is
of the techniques that you could have said. I am just curious why this one.
Showmanship. I like showmanship. Like, the first cocktail book, Jerry Thomas is doing a blazer. But like, if you get all the pieces, gadgets and showmanship. So you need the bowl, and the bowl has to be right, and it has to feel precious and nice. And then I peel the orange all the way around and stud it all the way back down with cloves and put it back onto the orange from which it came so perfectly that it just looks like a clove-studded orange. And when I unpeel it and I hold it up here, and then I light and I'm pouring the flame down, and you get the cloves. If you get it right, and the cloves all light up, and the oils come out, and then you pour the coffee over the top of it, and you drink it. That mouth-numbing sensation you got if you got the cloves just right, combined with the overproofy, high-octane aroma of booze, and then the after kick of coffee. If you get that right, that technique. I don't know, there's so much going on. There's such a small amount of frame of time for you to get it right. It's like breakfast is harder to cook than a stew, because it's got to be precise. It's got to get the timing right. In front of people, there's so many things that could go wrong. So it's like live streaming, anything could happen.
Exactly.
So that's my favorite technique. And I used to travel around the world doing that in presentations and to a room of people that had never seen it before.
How many times did you set fire to yourself?
0.
Really? I'm impressed.
0 times. I didn't set fire to the bar. It worked most of it. I'm pretty particular about how I did it. I've lost my bowl now. I should actually hunt that back down.
Have you set fire to yourself anytime?
No.
So I'm the only
because
one.
I'm
then.
afraid.
Oh,
Because I'm
what were you
afraid.
making?
I was just teaching, like, no, I shouldn't say this.
No, but when
like,
you're teaching, your brain is doing two things at once.
Yeah, I was just teaching a class how to do it. Normally I do it like without any harm or whatever, but this time I was just being a little bit unconcentrated. But also you have to save face when this happens. So I like accidentally set fire to my arm. Thankfully I don't have any hair on my arm. So it was like, but then you can't also make a face. So you have to be like, no, this doesn't hurt whatsoever. I'm just gonna be like,
Did you say, and this is what not to do?
yeah, exactly. And
Okay.
then
In this situation,
like I involuntarily showed you what not to do, so just learn from me. This hurts like a so let's not do that. And then I put it out.
no, I was very lucky.
What did you do with Dan
Which
this
day?
week? Daniel Waddy.
Oh yeah, okay. I was just losing my mind. So this week I went to see Dan, and we shot a couple of things still to come. But he was talking about the importance of tasting your drinks, and he was very concise in this one.
Okay,
It was
let's
really
have a
good.
look.
Let's have a look.
Hi, my name is Daniel and we are back in Satan's Whiskers today to talk a little bit about the importance of tasting our drinks. Now, as we saw from the previous couple of videos, no matter how much you practice and no matter how good you are at pouring, you are never going to be 100% accurate. And that means that unless your drink is entirely pre-batched, you're just tipping it over an ice cube, there is going to be variation in what you're doing. And that's fine. That is part of the joy of cocktails, is things being made in front of you from scratch. But that means that when you are making drinks in this way, you have to taste everything you are doing, because otherwise you will send out crap drinks. We know we can't pour 100% accurately, and that's before we even start making a mistake, picking up a wrong ingredient. The time to taste your drinks is when they're still in the tin after you've shaken them. Tasting something before you shake it is fine, but that's not going to give you the full picture of the sort of flavour at the end of it, because water is that vital last ingredient. So the time to taste, after you've shaken something, pour your strainer on, taste it, and then if I need to add a dash more lime to my daiquiri, I can do that while it's still in here. And once I've strained that, that will be nicely integrated there. But tasting doesn't just stop there with our cocktails. It applies to everything else we have on the back bar. Ultimately, if we don't just want these to be pretty bottles, if we want to be able to recommend them to our guests based on their flavour and their preferences rather than just on pretty labels and brand knowledge, we need to be constantly tasting what we're doing. And your palate is absolutely one of your sort of key sort of tools behind the bar. So, as it says in round building, bigger than the letters on the front, taste everything all the time. So that way you know what it tastes like, but also you're making sure that you're not going to charge someone 15 or 20 or 30 or more pounds for something that doesn't taste good enough, because your guests don't deserve that and your business doesn't deserve that. So thank you.
Okay, we're back, and we've got to be socially responsible. So we're only going to have a tiny little bit. We're going to have a little tiny taste of a smashable cocktail, and have a toast to having the three of us on this show. All right, Anya?
Do you taste every drink that you make?
I'd like to. I'm not going to lie. I taste them in a different way. I often taste them because I'm not making drinks on a regular basis. I often taste them before I shake them or stir them, and hope that my brain is still kind of able to get the shake and dilution right out of feel, if that makes sense. So I'm tasting it with the perspective that I want it to taste stronger, sweeter, slightly more intense than I need it to be when I stir it or strain it. Does that make sense?
So,
So
opening up for the discussion of when to taste, before or after shake or stir. I would say that you taste before, because if you want to correct something, you do it before you do it.
Yeah, that's what I do.
Yes.
That's what I do.
And then like the preparation should be more or less like cycling. No, if you know, you know.
Yeah, well, and also if I taste something and it's like, oh, the taste is good, but this needs a bit more dilution, particularly if someone, I know some people are like, oh, this is a bit strong. I make a lot of drinks for different people, and one person might think that's a bit too strong, and actually just diluting the batch that tiny bit more softens it, brings out more sweetness for them, and they're happy with that. I would even split and stir one way and stir another the other way, depending on the guest. But I do have to say that I'm not making drinks constantly across a pass all day. So my brain is kind of wired to assume that my skills are blunt. Does that make sense? That I'm not sharp anymore.
All right, cheers.
Cheers. Thanks for coming.
What are we drinking?
Cheers. We're drinking this super smashable cocktail. It's like, we started with like the original RTD, and this is the latest RTD that I've not yet tasted. It's Marquez de Mata something VSOP, Campari. It's got vermouth, black walnut, and coffee. And it says, keep refrigerated, pour over ice before serving. Right?
So basically a coffee Negroni.
So you try it before you bought it?
I tried it actually. A few times. Well, I mean, I do think that it's important. It's depending like how you make cocktails, it's important to taste always, because even if you are a bar that do batching or pre-batching, you at some point someone needs to taste what is being made, because if you don't taste, there's no way that you will know, have I made a mistake?
Yeah, and actually, even you pre-batch it, maybe the way you store it can be change the way the flavor, or maybe it's broke, no? Like, so
Or
you
the
need to
tin.
yeah.
Someone could have muddled coriander into the tin. You're making a drink for someone from the UK. Ooh, save that one. There's coriander in that.
You notice I have it in the tea.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I've had that before, where I took what I perceived to be a clean tin, built drinks into it, and then only to find that there was mint in a drink that had no mint in it.
Yeah, and it's funny because you remember last year when we judged this competition together,
Yes.
and it was this in one of the last rounds. It was kind of like a mystery box challenge, and a lot of the competitors there, they didn't actually taste their ingredients until they came a little bit later in the drink making stage. Because I was talking to one of them, and he said that, I just assumed that the ingredient was going to taste the same here that it tastes back home.
Oh my!
And I was
yeah,
like, exactly. And that's
the
sorry,
fundamental
no offense, but like
core.
it's a very rookie mistake not to taste. If you are in a setting,
Was
where
it a high-level competition?
Yes, but if you go into a
final?
situation and you're working with ingredients that you're unfamiliar with, or even familiar, and not taste.
Yes, because even like the simple syrup that they use, how it's made, like 1-to-1, 2-to-1, like,
Yeah.
like
Everything's different.
Exactly.
Well, I did a competition once called Ready Steady Shake. Have you ever heard of the TV program Ready Steady Cook?
Yes.
Yeah, they open a box. It was that same mystery round type thing. You had a bunch of ingredients on the back bar, and then you had your mystery box, and you got points for the more of the mystery box that you used. But basically, I went around tasting absolutely everything I could taste. And I got in trouble because I was wasting time tasting everything. And they were like, hey, come on, we don't have all day. And I'm like,
how are you going to?
There's just like a thing of lime juice, and the lime juice was like so 4 days old that, my brain, when you're making something brand new, was straight away going to, sours and crusters and things that at the time I was making a lot of. So I was definitely going to use citrus. And if I hadn't tasted it, would have been a very different competition. And there was no time to juice fresh lime or anything. So I had to completely shift what my mind was going towards. Yeah, it's super important, especially in a competition environment. Do you taste the ingredients new ingredients that's been prepared by your staff before you start shift?
What do you mean new ingredients?
So I don't know. So say for example, you've got lemon juice, lime juice. You've got things that have been prepared that day that are fresh. You taste them as you come on, or you're there all the time.
I'm there all the time. What do you mean?
Like, I used to start my shift, roll in, and the barback will have made a bottle of lime juice, a bottle of lemon juice. That would all be there.
I mean, sure, like we all do open and we do close together. So
Okay,
it's,
okay.
But sure, the limes will taste different throughout the years. But also, like, this is the kind of beauty of having drinks or a menu that changes every day, no? So it's, you always adjust. But sure, like the first thing that we do, and it's the essence of everything we do, is that when ingredients come in, you taste them, and then you decide, based on what you taste, which kind of preparations you're going to apply to the ingredient. And then after you have done that and the prep is done and it's kind of ready to be used into a drink, you taste it again, and then you say, it's developed like this, so this would be perfect for this kind of drink.
Yeah.
Or this will be perfect for this kind of drink. Or this, depending on, because there's always variables, no? Like, for example, this year, when we get the forced rhubarb that you tasted, it's very high in liquid this year, and it was quite sour. It has a lot of acidity compared to, for example, last year was very sweet.
Wow.
So the way that you would manipulate,
So
I don't know, work with the ingredient.
I'm assuming you're
is
going to cook it off with
slightly-
sugar type thing to get the flavor out.
No, because I never, ever, ever add any heat. I hate
Really?
adding temperature takes away flavor.
Okay.
away
Is that why you have a
nuances.
rotary evaporator?
No, because that's a different technique again.
Okay.
I would never put a rhubarb into a rotovac.
No. But I mean, if you're trying to get the flavor, how do you get the flavor out of a sour rhubarb, or do you run with sour?
I run with sour in a way that, like, no, I want I want to be as close as rhubarb itself when the cocktail comes on, or I want to make something that allows the rhubarb to shine. So, for example, in this year we did kind of a milk punch style drink, but with Greek yogurt.
Okay.
So it's creamy, but it has a lot of acidity. It's not
Yeah.
sweet. It's, and then you work with the other ingredients like the spirits and all of these things to kind of break it apart and then rebuild it into what you want, the picture that you want to
nice.
paint. But it depends. But yeah.
Benj, when you get ingredients in, do you have a set menu already, or are you getting new ingredients in, tasting them with the team, and then going from there?
So we have like an idea how to create the new season. Like in the last three menus, we have been working with someone from Oaxaca that they help us to source all the ingredients. So we do like 6-7 cocktails. So also we try to use the season of the year that what they are going to produce. But yes, we try it. But for sometimes, like in the first one, we learned like they were like, okay, we are going to use this kind of mushroom. Like everyone, okay, looks amazing because she showed what will be available, and yes, for this one. So someone make one cocktail, but then the day when we went to try to learn how to pick it up, and was almost like lottery how to look like for the mushroom, like how you need to walk. Like we walked 3 hours and I didn't find anyone because you need to look over the leaf, and the only one that, yes, I found one, but because I realized that I smashed it, I didn't see it because you need to be cleaning the leaf. But yes, and we realized it was super hard, and we need a lot of kilos to get that. So it was like crazy, and a mistake that we make, like thinking that will be maybe like lemons, like for us, like limes, like it's easy. And you need to also have the perspective, know also about the seasonability, also how to get the sourcing and how to use that ingredient. Like sometimes it's very limited or difficult, or how amount of time to get what you want to incorporate in your recipes.
Yeah, nice. So if you can't source enough of it for you to use it as a bulk thing, then you start to think about how to use it in such a way that it complements a drink on a small, with a small amount. Okay.
Scalability is always one of the hardest things, no? How can you scale something that is great as it on its own, as in the singular thing, into something that can be replicated again and again and again by multiple people or multiple days time, all of these things, you know? So this is always a big challenge. So it takes a lot of time to do these types of things.
I got a question, right? Because it's been a while since I worked in a bar, run a bar.
Me too.
I've got my home bar here, which obviously runs on a completely different system to a real bar. Never makes any money. I haven't made a cent. But on mine, I've got a box, like a bucket of steel straws. So if I'm going to taste something, because you might have seen Daniel was tasting with a steel straw. If I'm going to taste all my drinks, I'm tasting using a pipette method and a steel straw, because that Ready Steady Shake comp, 2005, I was sticking plastic straws in, tasting something, throwing it in the bin. Taste another one, bin. You know, I was probably a lot of angry turtles out there in the world. How do you guys go about tasting your drinks?
I use a spoon.
Spoon?
Yeah, me too. But I usually like when I work is for gate shift, so I try the pre-batches and I use the spoon. And like yesterday, like in the Donovan bar was like 5 margaritas al pastor, no Benja, 7, no 12, no 15, no 18. Okay, perfect. Imagine was like yeah. So you need to try. In my case, I tried the.
You're trying it with a ladle. Wow. Okay. Spoons. What sort of spoon? Just a little teaspoon.
No, just a tasting spoon. I mean, like just a normal spoon.
The first spoon.
Yeah, and just keep it in I mean, my station is slightly different than many other stations, but like I keep it in a triangle in water and then you clean it and then you go back.
I might try out spoons, because in my head, I was like, the thing the world needs the most right now is a container that all my straws can go into standing upright, that goes in the dishwasher, that has mesh at the bottom, so I can put that in, wash them all, bring them out, and put them in a spot on my bar that, like, I know these are the clean ones, and then the dirty ones go in a bucket that falls into the next one, because you can't, cleaning them is a nightmare.
Yeah, so like a spoon is very easy to clean, and you can just clean as you go.
Okay.
So, but on that note, we are running out of time, and this is actually my last episode.
Yeah.
So, hence the drink.
The
but
toast.
From next week, we will have a surprise new co-host, which I'm very excited.
Me too.
About.
It's going to be great.
It's going to be amazing. We won't reveal the surprise just yet.
Can we reveal it just on the show, so people are like, "What?"
I think perhaps
How did they get George Clooney?
Yes,
Joke,
exactly.
joke.
How did we get Taylor Swift? No, I'm joking.
I coming back.
Exactly. No, so, but we will be back next Tuesday at 2:00.
2:00.
With
Same time.
Same time, same place, almost the same people.
Slightly different perspective.
Yes. So see you then.
Cheers.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Ben.
guys.
Thank you. Bye.